My stepsister said, "You're not invited to the family reunion," but then nobody showed up to hers. It started 3 months ago when Dad married Brenda. Within a week, her daughter Tiffany decided I didn't belong. At the engagement party, she'd whispered to relatives that I was just Dad's kid from his first mistake. At the wedding, she gave a toast about her mom finally finding a real family, emphasizing the word real while staring directly at me. The reunion invitation went out in July. A big family gathering at some lake house Brenda's parents owned. Swimming, barbecue, the works. When I asked Dad about the dates so I could request time off work, he got this weird look. "Actually, Tiffany's handling the invitations this year," he said carefully. "I'm sure she'll reach out." She never did. Instead, I found out through Dad's phone. He'd left it on the kitchen counter while showering. A group chat called Real Family Reunion with about 40 people. My name wasn't on the list. There were messages about bringing potato salad, who was driving whom, whether the lake would be warm enough for jet skiing. Tiffany had written, "This is for blood family and people who actually matter. Finally getting to celebrate without dead weight." I took screenshots. Didn't say anything. The reunion was set for August 15th. 2 weeks before, I started my own planning. I called my mom's side. Aunts, uncles, cousins I'd grown up with before the divorce. Then Dad's siblings. The ones who'd known me since I was born, who'd sent birthday cards every year even after he remarried. His parents, my grandparents who taught me to fish, even Dad's best friend from college, who was basically my uncle. I sent a simple message. "Small gathering at my apartment, August 15th. Would love to see you. It's been too long." 43 people confirmed. The morning of August 15th, Dad and Brenda left early for the lake house. Tiffany had driven up the night before to help set up. I watched them pack the car with folding chairs and coolers, Dad nervous and distracted. "You sure you don't mind staying home?" he asked for the third time. "I've got plans," I said truthfully. By noon, my apartment complex's common area was packed. My aunt brought her famous cornbread. Grandpa fired up the grill. Cousins I hadn't seen in years showed up with their kids. Dad's brother brought photos from my childhood, and we spent an hour laughing at my terrible haircuts and gap-toothed smile. It felt like coming home. At 3 p.m., Dad called. I could hear Brenda crying in the background. "We're at the lake house," he said quietly. "It's just us and Brenda's parents. No one else came." "That's weird," I said, flipping a burger. "Did you—" He stopped. "Do you know where everyone is?" "Probably wherever they felt welcomed," I replied. Through the window, I could see my grandmother teaching Tiffany's ex-boyfriend's little sister how to braid friendship bracelets. Turned out his family and mine had stayed close. Silence. Then, "Can we come to where you are?" I looked around at my real family, the people who'd shown up for me at graduations, hospital visits, and random Tuesdays when I just needed someone. "I'll text you the address," I said. "But Dad, there's something you should probably know first." That's when my phone buzzed. A photo from Tiffany's Instagram story. An empty lake house deck with the caption, "When you throw a party and realize you're the one nobody actually likes." The comments were already filling up. My uncle leaned over my shoulder and whistled. "Is that the girl who said you didn't matter?" I was about to answer when I saw Brenda's car pulling into the parking lot, but there was a second car behind them, one I didn't recognize. And when the door opened, it was my mom, my actual mom, who I hadn't seen in person for 8 months because she'd been working overseas. She stepped out wearing her travel clothes, dragging a suitcase, and her face broke into the biggest smile when she spotted me through the crowd. "Surprise!" she called out, waving. "My contract ended early. Flew in this morning and your aunt told me where to find you." I felt my throat tighten. Behind her, Dad and Brenda were getting out of their car, and I watched Dad's face go pale when he saw Mom. They'd barely spoken since the divorce 5 years ago, keeping everything through lawyers and brief text messages about my schedule. Brenda looked like she'd been crying for hours. Her makeup was smudged, and she kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Dad just stood there, frozen between his old life and his new one, both colliding in a parking lot on a Saturday afternoon. Mom walked right past them. She didn't even glance in their direction. She just came straight to me and wrapped me in a hug that smelled like her lavender perfume and airport coffee. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered in my ear. "Your aunt told me everything." Which aunt? I wondered. But then I saw my dad's sister winking at me from across the common area. She'd always been the family gossip, and apparently she'd upgraded to international informant. "Rebecca," Dad said, using Mom's name for the first time in years. "I didn't know you were back." "Why would you?" Mom replied coolly, finally acknowledging him. She kept her arm around my shoulders. "I don't exactly keep you updated on my travel schedule." Brenda made a small noise, something between a sob and a gasp. "This is your doing," she said, pointing at me with a shaking finger. "You sabotaged our reunion. You turned everyone against Tiffany." "I didn't have to turn anyone against anyone," I said calmly. "I just invited people to spend time with me. They made their own choices about where they wanted to be." "But how did you—" Brenda stopped, her eyes widening. "The group chat. You saw the group chat." "I took screenshots," I confirmed. "Would you like to see them?" "I have the one where Tiffany called me deadweight, and the one where she said I was Dad's mistake. Oh, and my personal favorite, the one where she said it was time to celebrate without the trash." Dad's face went from pale to gray. "She said that?" "Among other things," my uncle chimed in, holding up his phone. "Want to see? Your daughter's been quite vocal about how she really feels." Brenda grabbed for the phone, but my uncle held it out of reach. He was 6'4" and played college basketball. She didn't stand a chance. "Give me that," she demanded. "Why?" my uncle asked. "So you can pretend you didn't know?" "We all saw it, Brenda. The whole family got screenshots. Your daughter made it very clear that only certain people were worth her time." That's when Tiffany's car pulled up. She must have driven separately from her grandparents. The music was blasting, some pop song about being unstoppable, and she had her phone propped on the dashboard, clearly filming herself arriving at what she thought was going to be my humiliation. She got out and stopped dead when she saw the crowd in the common area. All 43 people, plus my mom, all staring at her. The music kept playing from her still-running car. "What?" she started, then noticed her mom crying and my dad looking like he wanted to sink into the pavement. "What's going on?" "Everyone's here," I said simply. "Just not where you expected them to be?" She looked around, processing. I could see the exact moment she understood. Her face went through shock, confusion, anger, and finally landed on rage. "You bitch!" she hissed. "You stole my reunion." "I didn't steal anything," I replied. "I just reminded people that they have a choice about who they spend time with, and apparently they chose me." My grandmother, who'd been quietly grilling chicken this whole time, spoke up. Her voice was soft but carried across the parking lot. "Tiffany, honey, you reap what you sow. You wanted a family reunion without people you considered dead weight. Well, now you know how it feels to be left out." "But I'm not the dead weight," Tiffany sputtered. "She is. She's not even real family. I've known that girl since she was 6 hours old," my grandfather said, pointing at me with his spatula. "I was in the delivery room. I changed her diapers. I taught her to ride a bike and to fish and to drive a stick shift. If that doesn't make her real family, then I don't know what does." Dad finally found his voice. "Tiffany, what exactly did you write in that group chat?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just normal reunion stuff. She called me dead weight," I said, pulling out my phone. "Want to read it yourself, Dad? I have all the screenshots. Every single message where she made it clear I wasn't welcome in what's supposed to be our family." "Our family," Tiffany repeated mockingly. "Please. You're just some leftover from his first marriage. Mom and I are his real family now." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. Brenda was shaking her head, tears streaming down her face, but she wasn't defending her daughter. She wasn't saying anything at all. Dad walked over to me slowly. "Can I see the screenshots?" I handed him my phone, watched his face as he scrolled through message after message. Tiffany talking about finally having a reunion without the embarrassment. Tiffany saying I was Dad's biggest regret. Tiffany organizing what she explicitly called a real family-only event. When he looked up, his eyes were red. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I swear to God, I didn't know she was saying these things." "But you noticed I wasn't invited," I pointed out. "And you didn't question it. I thought—" He stopped, swallowed. "Brenda said you and Tiffany had agreed to do separate celebrations this year, that you'd wanted some space." "She lied," I said flatly. "I was never asked. I was never even told there was a reunion until I saw it on your phone by accident." Brenda finally spoke, her voice thick with tears. "I didn't know Tiffany was being so cruel. I just thought I wanted her to have something that was ours. She's had such a hard time adjusting to the marriage." "So have I," said. "But I didn't decide to exclude people from family events because of it." "This is unbelievable," Tiffany said, her voice rising. "Everyone's acting like I'm the villain here when all I wanted was one day with my actual family. Is that so wrong? To want to spend time with people who share my blood? That's not what family is," my aunt said. She'd been silent until now, just watching everything unfold. "Family is the people who show up, the people who choose to be there, blood or not. You made your choice about who mattered to you. They made their choice too." Tiffany's face crumpled, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine emotion or manipulation. With her, it was always hard to know. She'd perfected the art of crying on command by age 12, her mom had once told me proudly. "I want to go home," she said, looking at Brenda. "Can we please just go home?" "Actually," Dad said, his voice harder than I'd heard it in years, "I think we need to talk, all of us, about what family actually means in this house." "There's nothing to talk about," Tiffany snapped. "They've already made their choice. They chose her over me." "No," my grandfather corrected. "We chose kindness over cruelty. There's a difference." Tiffany turned to her car, but Dad caught her arm. "You're not leaving. Not until we sort this out." "There's nothing to sort out," she said, jerking away from him. "I hate her. I've always hated her." "Is that what you want to hear?" "She's a constant reminder that you had a whole other life before us. And I'm sick of pretending like that's okay." The honesty, finally. Raw and ugly and real. "Then that's something we need to work through," Dad said. "Because I'm not choosing between my daughters." "I'm not your daughter," Tiffany said. "You're not my dad. You're just the guy my mom married." That one hit him. I saw it in the way his shoulders sagged, the way his hand dropped to his side. He'd spent 3 years trying to bond with Tiffany, showing up at her volleyball games, helping with her homework, treating her like his own, and she'd just drawn a line in permanent marker. Brenda rushed forward. "Tiffany, you don't mean that." "Yes, I do," Tiffany said. She was crying now, real tears, not the fake ones. "I never wanted a stepdad. I wanted my real dad, but he left us, remember? And now I'm supposed to pretend like this replacement family is just as good? It's not. It never will be." "Then why?" I asked quietly. "Did you make me the villain? Your dad left you. Mine didn't leave me. So why do I get punished?" She whirled on me. "Because you're everything I'm not. Everyone loves you. Perfect grades, perfect attitude, perfect relationship with your dad. You make me look bad, just by existing. That's not my fault," I said. "Isn't it?" She laughed, but it was bitter. "Do you know what it's like? Living with someone everyone compares you to? Why can't you be more like her? She doesn't talk back. She gets straight A's. She's so responsible. I'm so sick of being the disappointment." "No one's ever said that," Brenda protested weakly. "You don't have to say it out loud," Tiffany shot back. "I can see it in your faces. Every time I mess up, you look at her and wish I was more like that." The thing was, I understood. Not the cruelty, not the exclusion, but the feeling of being compared, of never measuring up. I'd felt that way plenty of times with Tiffany. She was prettier, more popular, more confident, but I'd never tried to hurt her because of it. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said, but taking it out on me isn't the answer. What is the answer then? She demanded. Huh? Tell me, since you're so perfect. Maybe actually talking to people instead of excluding them, my mom suggested. She'd been quiet this whole time, just observing. Maybe recognizing that blended families are hard for everyone, not just you. You're not even part of this conversation, Tiffany snapped at her. No, Mom agreed. But I was part of a divorce that affected my daughter deeply. I know what it's like to watch your child struggle with changes they didn't ask for. The difference is, I taught her that other people's existence isn't a threat to hers. Easy for you to say, Tiffany muttered. Actually, it wasn't, Mom replied. It was hard, really hard, but it was necessary. Dad was still standing there, looking lost. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. I really thought we were becoming a family. We were never going to be a family, Tiffany said. Not a real one. Then what do you want? Dad asked. Tell me what you want, and I'll try to make it happen. Tiffany opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked around at all the faces watching her. Family members who'd known her for 3 years, who'd tried to include her, who'd sent her birthday cards and Christmas presents. People who'd shown up for her 8th grade graduation and her volleyball tournaments. I wanted today, she said finally, her voice breaking. I just wanted one day where I felt special, where I was the center of attention, where people showed up for me. But you can't make yourself special by making someone else small, my grandmother said gently. That's not how it works, sweetie. Tiffany's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. She pulled it out and her face went white. What? Brenda asked. My Instagram story, Tiffany whispered. The one about the empty reunion. It's been shared like 300 times. People are commenting. She turned the phone around so we could see. The comments were brutal. This is what happens when you're mean to people. Maybe if you weren't such a brat, people would want to come to your parties. Karma is real lol. Imagine being so entitled you don't realize everyone actually hates you. Oh, honey, Brenda said, reaching for the phone, but Tiffany pulled it away. Don't, she said. Just don't. She scrolled through more comments, her face crumpling with each one. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then I remembered the group chat, the dead weight comment, the 3 months of deliberate exclusion. You should probably delete that, I suggested. Now you're giving me advice? She laughed harshly. Perfect. I'm trying to help, I said. I don't want your help, she spat. I don't want anything from you. Fine, I said. Then I guess we're done here. I turned back to the common area where my actual family was waiting. My mom put her arm around me and we walked back together. Behind us, I could hear Brenda trying to comfort Tiffany, while Dad stood somewhere in the middle, probably wondering how his life had gotten so complicated. The party continued. My cousin's band set up in the corner and started playing. Kids were running around with sparklers even though it wasn't quite dark yet. My grandmother cut her famous chocolate cake and started passing out slices. I saw Dad standing at the edge of the common area about 20 minutes later. He looked like he wanted to join but wasn't sure if he was welcome. My mom saw him too. Go talk to your father, she said quietly. I don't know what to say, I admitted. The truth, she suggested. That's always a good start. I walked over to him. He was holding a bottle of water he'd gotten from somewhere, just turning it around and around in his hands. Hey, I said. Hey, he replied. Hell of a party. Yeah. We stood there in awkward silence. In the background, someone was telling a story that made everyone laugh. My uncle's distinctive guffaw carried across the space. I'm sorry, Dad said finally, for not paying closer attention, for not realizing what was happening. You chose her, I said. Brenda. And by extension, Tiffany. I get it. You wanted a new family. I wanted us all to be family, he corrected. That's not the same thing. Feels the same from where I'm standing. He nodded. I suppose it does. More silence. This was the longest conversation we'd had in months that didn't involve logistics or schedules. The screenshots, he said. Can you send them to me? I need to see everything. Why? So you can punish Tiffany? I don't think that's going to help. No, he said. So I can understand the full scope of what's been happening. I've been so blind. I wanted everyone to get along so badly that I ignored the signs that we weren't. She called me dead weight, I said. My voice cracked on the last word. She said I was your biggest mistake. Dad's jaw tightened. You are not a mistake. You have never been a mistake. But I am in the way, I said. Of her perfect family. Of the life Brenda wants. Stop, Dad interrupted. Just stop. Yes, blending families is complicated. Yes, there have been adjustments. But you are my daughter. That's not negotiable. That's not temporary. That's forever. Then why didn't you notice when she excluded me from the reunion? He flinched. Because I trusted my wife when she said you two had talked about it. Because I wanted to believe everything was fine. Because it was easier than confronting the truth. At least he was honest. Brenda's not a bad person, he continued. And Tiffany's not either. Not really. They're struggling too. With the changes. With sharing me. With feeling like they matter. That doesn't excuse cruelty, I said. No, he agreed. It doesn't. We watched as my aunt attempted to teach a complicated line dance to a group of very uncoordinated cousins. It was chaos and laughter, and everything a family gathering should be. Can I stay? Dad asked. At the party, I mean, or would you rather I leave? I wanted to tell him to leave, wanted to make him feel as excluded as I'd felt. But when I looked at his face, really looked at him, I saw exhaustion and regret and genuine pain. You can stay, I said. But Brenda and Tiffany are going home, he finished. I already told them. This is your day, your celebration. They don't get to ruin it. And after today? I asked. What happens then? Family therapy, Dad said firmly. All of us. No more pretending everything's fine when it's not. No more brushing problems under the rug. We're going to deal with this properly. Tiffany's not going to like that. Tiffany doesn't have to like it, he said. She just has to show up and do the work. He walked into the common area and my grandfather immediately pulled him aside. They talked in low voices for a few minutes. My grandfather's hand on Dad's shoulder. When they came back, Dad was wiping his eyes. Mom appeared beside me. You okay? I don't know, I admitted. This wasn't how I thought today would go. Better or worse? Both, I said. I wanted Tiffany to know how it felt to be excluded. Mission accomplished. But now I feel guilty about it. That's because you're not cruel, Mom said. You made a point. She learned a lesson. That's different from intentional malice. Is it though? Mom considered. Intent matters. You invited everyone. You didn't exclude Tiffany. She excluded herself by being unwelcoming. Natural consequences aren't the same as revenge. It feels like revenge. Sometimes justice feels like revenge when you're used to being walked all over, Mom said. You stood up for yourself. That's allowed. Across the common area, I saw Tiffany's car finally pull away. Brenda was driving. Tiffany was in the passenger seat, still staring at her phone. I wondered if she was reading the comments, if she understood yet what she'd done wrong, or if she just felt victimized by the whole situation. Dad joined us. It was weird having both my parents in the same space after so many years of carefully orchestrated separation. But they were both being civil, both focused on me instead of their old resentments. Your aunt makes a mean potato salad, Mom commented, breaking the tension. She always did, Dad agreed. Remember that 4th of July when she made 3 batches and they were still gone before the fireworks? That was a good party, Mom said softly. They weren't friends, probably never would be again. But maybe they could be friendly for my sake. That was something. The party went until almost midnight. People gradually filtered out, hugging me goodbye, promising to do this again soon. My grandmother pressed a container of leftovers into my hands. My uncle slipped me a $50 bill and told me to buy something fun. When everyone was gone, it was just me, Mom, and Dad standing in the now empty common area, surrounded by decorations and abandoned paper plates. I should go, Dad said. Brenda's probably wondering where I am. Tell her. I stopped. Actually, never mind. What? Dad prompted. Tell her I don't hate her, I said. And I don't hate Tiffany either. But I'm done pretending everything's fine when it's not. Dad nodded. That's fair. He hugged me before he left. A real hug. The kind he used to give me when I was little and the world felt scary. I love you, he whispered. I'm sorry I haven't been showing it properly. I love you too, I said, surprising myself. After he left, Mom and I cleaned up in comfortable silence. We filled trash bags and folded chairs and wiped down tables. You're staying the night, right? I asked. You flew all this way. If you'll have me, she said. Though I should warn you, I snore now. Age is cruel. We went up to my apartment. It was small, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Mom looked around with approval. You've done well for yourself, she said. I'm proud of you. Thanks for coming, I said. You didn't have to. Of course I did, she replied. You're my daughter. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. We stayed up talking until almost 3 in the morning. She told me about her work overseas, the places she'd seen, the people she'd met. I told her about my job, my friends, my life. We didn't talk about Dad or Brenda or Tiffany, just mother and daughter catching up on lost time. When I finally went to bed, I checked my phone. Tiffany had deleted the Instagram story, but screenshots lived forever. Someone had already made a Reddit post about it. The comments were a mix of sympathy and schadenfreude. I had a text from Dad. Thank you for letting me stay. I didn't deserve it, but I'm grateful. And one from my grandmother. That girl needs to learn that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. You showed me that today. Love you, sweetheart. I fell asleep feeling complicated, vindicated and guilty, angry and hopeful, justified and uncertain. Real life was messy like that. Not a neat story with a clear villain and hero, just people making mistakes and trying to do better. The next morning, Mom made pancakes. We ate breakfast on my tiny balcony, watching the sun come up over the parking lot. What are you going to do? Mom asked. About the family situation? Show up to therapy if they actually follow through, I said. Try to be civil. Set boundaries. See what happens. That's very mature of you. I have my moments. My phone buzzed. A text from Tiffany. Can we talk? I showed it to Mom. She raised her eyebrows. That's up to you, she said. No one would blame you for saying no. I stared at the message for a long time. 3 little words that could mean anything. An apology. An attack. An olive branch or a grenade. Maybe, I typed back. But not today. She didn't respond immediately. Then, okay, when you're ready. Progress was slow, painful. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. But it was something. Dad followed through on the therapy idea. We all went. Me, him, Brenda, Tiffany. The first session was brutal. Tiffany cried. Brenda got defensive. Dad tried to mediate. I just sat there feeling numb, but we kept going back. Week after week. Slowly, things started to shift. Tiffany admitted she'd been jealous of my relationship with Dad. Brenda acknowledged she'd enabled some of her daughter's behavior. Dad confessed he'd been avoiding conflict instead of addressing problems. I learned to speak up instead of letting things slide. To say, that hurt me, instead of pretending I was fine. It wasn't a miracle cure. We still had bad days. Still had arguments. Still struggled to understand each other. But we were trying, and that was more than we'd done before. 3 months after the reunion, we had a family dinner. All 4 of us at Dad and Brenda's house. Tiffany had made lasagna, her one specialty. It was actually pretty good. I've been thinking, Tiffany said halfway through dinner, not looking at me. About the reunion, about everything. We all stopped eating, waiting. I was a bitch, she continued. A huge bitch. I blamed you for things that weren't your fault. I wanted you gone because it was easier than dealing with my actual feelings. Okay, I said carefully. I'm not saying we have to be best friends, she added quickly. I'm not even saying I'm totally over all of it. But I'm trying to be better, to not be that person anymore. That's all anyone can ask, I said. So, she said, taking a deep breath, there's another family gathering next month, Thanksgiving. And I wanted to make sure you knew, like actually knew, with a real invitation, that you're welcome, if you want to come. It wasn't much, wasn't a grand gesture or a tearful apology, just a small acknowledgement that I belonged. I'll be there, I said. Tiffany nodded, relief flooding her face. Cool, good, okay. We went back to eating. The conversation moved on to other topics, work, school, the weather. Normal, boring stuff, but it felt monumental. After dinner, I helped with the dishes. Tiffany came in while I was drying plates. The comments really got to me, she admitted quietly. On Instagram, people I didn't even know were calling me a brat and entitled and worse. It made me realize how I must have made you feel. It wasn't fun, I said honestly. I bet, she replied. Look, I'm not expecting us to be sisters. Real sisters, I mean. But maybe we could be, I don't know, civil? Civil works, I said. She smiled. It was tentative and uncertain, but genuine. Civil it is. Mom came to Thanksgiving. It was weird having everyone in one place. My parents who'd been divorced for 5 years, Brenda who'd replaced Mom and Dad's life, Tiffany who'd tried to erase me. But we made it work. We passed dishes and made small talk and avoided controversial topics. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Our messy, complicated, imperfect family situation. The reunion had been in August. By December, things had settled into a new normal. Tiffany and I weren't friends, but we were friendly. We could be in the same room without tension. We could even sometimes laugh at the same jokes. Dad seemed lighter somehow, less burdened by the weight of trying to make everyone happy. He'd learned that forced harmony wasn't real peace. Brenda apologized to me privately one evening. I should have paid more attention, she said, to what Tiffany was doing, to how you were being treated. I'm sorry. I appreciate that, I told her. I wanted so badly for us all to be a family that I ignored the fact we weren't there yet, she continued. I thought if I just pushed hard enough, pretended long enough, it would become true. Maybe we can be, I said, eventually, in our own way. I'd like that, she said. Mom left after the holidays, back to her job overseas. But she promised to visit more often, and she did. Every few months, she'd fly in for a long weekend. We'd have dinner, just the two of us, and catch up properly. Dad and I started having lunch together once a week, just us. No Brenda or Tiffany. Father-daughter time where we could talk without complication. He asked about my life, actually listened to the answers. I learned about his work, his hobbies, the things that made him happy beyond his role as husband and father. I missed you, he admitted one lunch. When everything was so tense with the family dynamics, I missed just being your dad. I missed you too, I said. Tiffany started college that fall. The distance seemed to help her. She called sometimes to vent about roommate drama or difficult classes. Our conversations were brief and surface level, but they were friendly. Progress. A year after the reunion, I was cleaning out my phone and came across the screenshots. The real family reunion group chat. Tiffany's cruel words. The evidence of my exclusion. I almost deleted them, but instead I saved them to a folder labeled Remember. Not as ammunition for future arguments, but as a reminder of how far we'd all come, of the damage words could do, of the importance of actually dealing with problems instead of pretending they didn't exist. Dad got the promotion he'd been chasing at work. Brenda started a small business from home. Tiffany made Dean's List her first semester. I got accepted into a graduate program I'd been working toward. We were all moving forward, individually and together. The second reunion happened the following August. This time, everyone was invited, explicitly. Tiffany sent out actual invitations with handwritten notes. Mine said, "Please come, I mean it, T." We met at the same lake house. It was packed with people from all sides of the family, Dad's relatives, Brenda's relatives, even a few of Mom's family members who'd stayed close with Dad over the years. Everyone mingling together, sharing food and stories and laughter. I stood on the deck watching everyone, and Dad came up beside me. "This is what I wanted," he said quietly, "all along, everyone together." "It took some work to get here," I reminded him. "Best work I've ever done," he replied. Tiffany appeared on my other side, holding 2 beers. She offered me one. "Truce? We've been at truce for almost a year," I pointed out. "Yeah, but this is like official truce," she said. "At a family reunion, full circle and all that." I took the beer. Official truce. We clinked bottles and drank. Brenda called for everyone to gather for the family photo. We all squeezed together. Blood relatives and step relatives and chosen family all mixed together. "Say dysfunction," my uncle called out, and everyone laughed. The photo came out blurry because too many people were laughing, but we kept it anyway, framed it. Put it on the mantle at Dad and Brenda's house as a reminder that families aren't perfect. They're messy and complicated and sometimes painful, but they're worth the effort. I learned a lot that year. That revenge can feel like justice when you've been hurt. That standing up for yourself isn't the same as being cruel. That people can change if they actually want to. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean letting go of the weight. Most importantly, I learned that family isn't determined by who shares your blood or your last name. It's determined by who shows up, who puts in the work, who chooses you day after day even when it's hard. 43 people showed up to my gathering because they cared about me. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. That's the real family reunion. Now, 2 years later, things aren't perfect. Tiffany and I still have our moments. Brenda sometimes reverts to old defensive patterns. Dad occasionally tries too hard to make everyone happy. I still have to remind myself to speak up instead of staying silent. But we've built something real, something honest. A family that acknowledges its flaws instead of hiding them. That addresses problems instead of ignoring them. That chooses each other even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Last week, Tiffany called me. Not for anything specific, just to talk. We chatted for an hour about nothing important. Her roommate's terrible boyfriend, my terrible parallel parking, whether Die Hard counts as a Christmas movie. Before we hung up, she said, "Hey, thanks." "For what?" I asked. "For not giving up on us," she said. "For giving me a chance to be better. For just thanks." "You did the work," I replied. "I just showed up." "Still," she said, "thanks." The third reunion is coming up next month. We're doing something different this year. A camping trip instead of the lake house. Tiffany's idea, surprisingly. She wants to challenge everyone to be uncomfortable together, build fires, and share stories. And remember that family isn't about perfect moments in perfect settings. It's about showing up, even in the mess. I'll be there. Not because I have to be, but because I want to be. Because these imperfect people have become my imperfect family. Because we've done the hard work of actually becoming real to each other. And because family reunions aren't about excluding people or proving points or winning some invisible competition for who matters most. They're about inclusion, about choosing to gather together despite differences, about building something bigger than individual egos or old hurts. 3 years ago, Tiffany said I wasn't invited to the family reunion. Now, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Not because everything's perfect. It's not. Not because we all get along all the time. We don't. But because we've learned something important, that the best families aren't born, they're built. One difficult conversation at a time. One choice to show up at a time. One moment of grace at a time. So when people ask me about that infamous reunion, the one that went viral on Reddit, the one where my stepsister's empty party became internet legend, I tell them the truth. It wasn't really about revenge. It was about recognition, about being seen and valued and chosen, about learning that you can't force people to care about you, but you can choose to spend time with people who already do. And yeah, watching Tiffany realize that her cruelty had consequences, that felt good. I won't pretend it didn't. But what felt better was what came after. The hard work of rebuilding, the slow process of forgiveness, the choice to be better, all of us, together. That's the real story. Not the viral moment, but the years of work that followed it. The reunion was a catalyst, not a conclusion. A beginning, not an ending. And honestly, I'm grateful for it. For the hurt that forced us to be honest. For the embarrassment that motivated change. For the crisis that became an opportunity. Sometimes families need to fall apart before they can come back together stronger. Sometimes you need to see what you're missing before you appreciate what you have. Sometimes the person you thought was dead weight turns out to be the anchor holding everything down. My mom still visits every few months. Dad and I still have our weekly lunches. Brenda and I have started taking yoga classes together. Her idea, surprisingly. Tiffany and I text semi-regularly. Mostly memes and complaints about our respective problems. It's not a Hallmark movie. No one learned everything in one perfect moment. No magical speech fixed all our problems. Real healing takes time and effort and the willingness to be uncomfortable. But we're doing it. Slowly, messily, imperfectly. We're building something real. And the next time someone asks me if I'm invited to the family reunion, I can say yes. Not because I have to be invited, but because I'm already part of the family. The real family. The one that shows up.